I sat at that conference table watching Derek stand up, his smile dripping with false confidence, and announce he was buying me out for $7,000. $7,000. My share of the business was worth $5 million. The 3 board members wouldn't meet my eyes. Derek leaned forward, hands planted on the mahogany surface. Take it or leave it, Jody. There's nothing you can do about it. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I forced my lips into a smile. I stood slowly, smoothed my skirt, and said the one word that made his eyes flash with triumph. Deal. A week later, Derek would understand exactly what he'd just done. Derek called after me as I walked toward my office, his voice echoing down the hallway. Jody, wait. We need to discuss the transition timeline. I kept walking. My hands were steady as I pulled cardboard boxes from the supply closet and began packing my belongings. 11 years of my life, reduced to 3 boxes of personal items and a wilted plant someone gave me on my birthday 3 years ago. The company started in a cramped apartment near campus. Derek and I were 24, fresh out of college, burning with ambition and fueled by cheap coffee and dreams bigger than our bank accounts. I was the technical mind behind everything. I built the algorithms, wrote the code, designed the systems that would eventually power analytics for some of the biggest companies in America. Derek was the face, the fundraiser, the one who could walk into a room of investors and make them believe we were worth betting on. For the first few years, we were partners in every sense. Late nights debugging code while Derek practiced his pitch for the 100th time. Celebrations when we landed our first major client. The exhausted high fives when we finally moved into real office space. But somewhere around year 5, things shifted. Derek started taking credit for innovations I'd developed. In meetings, he'd interrupt me to explain my own work, rephrasing my technical descriptions into business jargon that made him sound like the visionary. I'd watch board members' eyes drift to him when I was speaking, then light up when he repeated the exact same thing. By year 6, I noticed he was excluding me from investor meetings, making decisions without consulting me, telling clients he was the chief architect of our technology platform. I'd built every single system from the ground up, cultivated every major client relationship personally, spent countless hours on the phone walking them through implementations and solving their problems. Derek showed up for contract signings and investor dinners. That's when I started documenting everything. Every email, every client conversation, every line of code I wrote. I kept meticulous records in encrypted files he didn't know existed. Call it intuition, call it paranoia, but something told me I'd need proof someday. I was loading the last box into my car when I heard voices drifting through the conference room window. The building's ventilation system had always carried sound in strange ways. I froze, listening. Derek's voice, animated and confident. Gentlemen, now that we've removed the dead weight, let me share my vision for the company's future. My hands tightened on the box. I've been developing this revolutionary approach to predictive analytics, Derek continued. It's going to transform how Fortune 500 companies understand their data. We're talking about a paradigm shift in the entire industry. I felt sick. That revolutionary approach was mine. I'd spent 2 years developing those algorithms. Gerald, one of the board members, spoke up. Derek, this is impressive. When did you develop this? I've been working on it for about 3 years, Derek said smoothly. Had to do most of the development at night, after hours. Jody was handling the day-to-day operations, but the real innovation, the core intellectual property, that's always been my domain. I stood there, boxes at my feet, listening to him rewrite history. I have documentation proving that all key innovations and client contracts have been under my name from the beginning, Derek said. Jody was a competent operations manager, but let's be clear about who built this company. Another board member, Thomas, asked, what about the intellectual property agreements? Everything's clean? Absolutely. I had our lawyers review everything last year. All IP, all client relationships, all proprietary technology. It's all registered under my name as founder and chief technology officer. The buyout Jody signed includes complete relinquishment of any claim to contributions to the company. My blood went cold. I'd signed that document in shock, barely reading it. I'd been so stunned by the $7,000 offer that I hadn't processed the legal language. I loaded my boxes and drove home in a daze. My apartment felt too quiet. I sat on my couch, staring at the wall, processing what I'd heard. Derek thought he'd won. He'd been systematically transferring everything to himself for years while I'd been busy actually running the company. He'd fabricated a narrative where he was the genius, and I was just competent support staff. And he'd done it so carefully, so methodically, that even the board believed him. But Derek had no idea what I'd been doing for the last 11 years. Every single client relationship lived in my phone, my email, my carefully maintained network. Every algorithm had my fingerprints embedded in ways he didn't understand because he'd never written a line of production code in his life. Every trade secret, every innovative solution, every technical breakthrough existed in one place: my mind, my files, and my carefully maintained backup plans. I opened my laptop and pulled up my encrypted drive. Years of documentation. Proof of every contribution, every innovation, every client conversation. This wasn't over, not even close. 2 days passed in a blur. I barely slept, spending hours organizing my documentation, planning my next move. Then the certified letter arrived. My hands shook as I opened it. Derek wasn't just pushing me out, he was suing me. I scanned the legal document, each paragraph worse than the last. The $7,000 buyout I'd signed included a non-compete clause so comprehensive it essentially banned me from working in my own industry. I couldn't work in marketing analytics anywhere in the United States for 5 years. I couldn't contact any former clients. I couldn't start a competing business. Violation of any clause meant I owed $10 million in damages, plus legal fees. I grabbed my phone and started calling lawyers. The first firm, "Sorry, we're conflicted out." The second, "We've already been retained by the other party." The third, "Conflict of interest, I'm afraid." Derek had gotten to them first. On my 6th call, I finally found someone. Patricia Hayes, a litigation attorney with a small practice in downtown. She agreed to meet me that afternoon. Patricia's office was modest, filled with law books and case files stacked on every surface. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, with silver hair pulled back in a practical bun. She read through the contract I'd signed, her expression growing grimmer with each page. "This is ironclad," she said finally. "He trapped you. Every clause is enforceable. The non-compete alone will prevent you from working in your field for 5 years. You're 32, correct?" 33, I said. 5 years in technology is a lifetime. By the time this expires, you'll be obsolete in your industry. She set the contract down. "And the damages clause, if you violate any term, that's devastating. $10 million would bankrupt you." "How much will it cost to fight this?" I asked. Patricia hesitated. "To mount a proper defense, to challenge the contract's validity, to investigate his claims, you're looking at legal fees starting around $100,000. Maybe more if it goes to trial." My savings account had $73,000. 11 years of careful saving, and it wasn't enough. "I need to review everything," Patricia said. "Bring me all your documentation, contracts, emails, anything that proves your contributions to the company. We might be able to argue fraud, duress, or unconscionability." "I have everything," I said. "Years of documentation." My phone rang. I glanced at the screen. Amy, my best friend, who worked at TechCore Industries, our biggest client. "Excuse me," I said to Patricia, stepping into the hallway. "Jody," Amy whispered urgently. "Are you somewhere private?" "Yes, what's wrong?" "Derek just left a meeting with our executives. He told them you were fired for misconduct. He's claiming you embezzled funds from the company. He's spreading this to all your major clients." The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. "What?" "TechCore just blacklisted you. I heard Jennifer from procurement say you're never to be hired or contracted in any capacity. 2 other companies called our office asking about you, and our executives confirmed Derek's story." "Jody, everyone in the industry is going to hear this by tomorrow. He's destroying your reputation." "Amy, I never embezzled anything. This is insane." "I know, but it doesn't matter what's true. It matters what people believe. And right now, everyone's believing Derek." Her voice dropped even lower. "I have to go. I'm sorry." "I'm so sorry." The line went dead. I stood in that hallway, phone in my trembling hand, understanding the full scope of Derek's plan. He wasn't just forcing me out. He was ensuring I could never work again, never defend myself, never rebuild. I returned to Patricia's office. She took one look at my face and said, "What happened?" I told her about Amy's call. Patricia closed her eyes briefly. Defamation on top of everything else. This is worse than I thought. Jody, without proof of your contributions, without witnesses willing to testify, without the ability to contact clients, you're fighting an uphill battle against someone with significant resources and a head start. I have the proof, I said. Years of it. Every email, every document, every... Can you prove those documents are authentic? Can you prove they haven't been altered? Can you prove your timeline against his? Because he's going to have expert witnesses, forensic analysts, and a team of lawyers arguing that anything you present is fabricated. I felt the walls closing in. Can't work in my industry. Can't defend my reputation. Being accused of crimes I didn't commit. Running out of money. No clear path to fight back. But I had something Derek didn't know about. For 11 years, I'd been the technical foundation of everything. I knew where every vulnerability was, every backdoor, every system dependency. I'd built fail-safes he didn't understand existed. Patricia, I said, I need you to file a response to this lawsuit. I'm not taking any deal. We're fighting this. She studied me for a long moment. That's going to require a $15,000 retainer just to get started. Done, I said, even though it would leave me with $58,000 to my name. That night, I went home and opened my encrypted backup drive. The drive where I'd stored 11 years of documentation. Every email thread, every client conversation transcript, every version of every algorithm I'd written. Proof of everything. The files wouldn't open. I tried again. Error message. Corrupted data. I tried a third time, my heart pounding. Every single file was corrupted. Someone had hacked my security system, my encrypted backups, and systematically destroyed my evidence. I sat in the darkness of my apartment, staring at the error messages on my screen, and realized Derek was 3 moves ahead of me. He hadn't just stolen my company. He'd stolen my ability to prove he'd stolen it. I called Marcus, an IT specialist I'd worked with on a security project 2 years ago. He arrived at my apartment at 7 in the morning, took one look at my corrupted drive, and spent 3 hours running diagnostics. This was a professional job, he said finally. Sophisticated malware, probably custom-built. It targeted your specific encryption protocols. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were looking for. Can you recover anything? Marcus grimaced. Maybe fragments. It's going to take time, specialized software, and it won't be cheap. I'm talking $20,000 minimum, and I can't guarantee results. $20,000 I didn't have. But I paid it anyway, because what choice did I have? While Marcus worked on data recovery, my life continued its rapid disintegration. My landlord called. Someone had reported me for running an illegal business from my apartment. The claim was absurd, fabricated, but it triggered an inspection and potential eviction proceedings. I knew Derek was behind it. 2 days later, my bank called. The IRS had flagged my account based on an anonymous tip about unreported income. My account was frozen pending audit. All $58,000 locked away where I couldn't access it. I couldn't pay Marcus. I couldn't pay Patricia. I couldn't pay my rent. Patricia called with more bad news. Derek's lawyers filed a counter-complaint. Jody, you need to see this. I met her at her office. She spread documents across her desk. Bank statements showing large transfers to offshore accounts, contracts with my signature selling company, assets below market value to shell corporations, email threads discussing kickbacks and embezzlement schemes. $400,000, systematically stolen over 3 years, all pointing to me. This is fraud, Patricia said quietly. But Jody, it's convincing fraud. These bank statements look real. The emails have metadata timestamps. The contracts have notary seals. If Derek takes this to the district attorney, you're not just facing a civil suit, you're facing criminal charges. But I never did any of this. He fabricated everything. Can you prove that? Because right now his evidence is very convincing, and you have nothing to counter it with. The room spun. I gripped the edge of her desk. Patricia continued, her voice gentle but firm. Derek's lawyer sent an offer. Drop all claims against him, sign a statement admitting to misappropriation of funds, and Derek won't press criminal charges. You'd be barred from ever working in analytics or technology. You'd forfeit your buyout payment to cover restitution, but you wouldn't go to prison. If I sign that, I'm admitting to crimes I didn't commit. If you don't sign, and he convinces a prosecutor to file charges, you could face 5 to 10 years in federal prison. I had 72 hours to decide. I left Patricia's office and sat in my car in the parking garage. I'd been living out of my car for the past week, parking in different lots, using gym memberships to shower. My apartment was uninhabitable during the eviction proceedings. Everything Derek touched turned to poison. The legal system, the banking system, my professional network, all of it corrupted by his methodical, careful fraud. Amy stopped returning my calls. She'd sent one text. I'm sorry, I can't be associated with this. They're watching everyone who talks to you. Tyler, my college friend who'd helped with the security analysis, stopped responding too. Everyone was afraid of the toxicity Derek had created around my name. Even Patricia was wavering. Jody, I'm going to be honest with you. This case is unwinnable without evidence, without witnesses, without resources. Derek has unlimited company funds to throw at this. You have nothing. I strongly recommend you take the deal. I sat in my car that night, parked behind a grocery store, eating a sandwich I'd bought with the last $20 in my wallet. The deadline was in 72 hours. Sign the admission, lose everything but avoid prison. Refuse to sign, face criminal prosecution with fabricated evidence I couldn't disprove. But I kept thinking about something I'd done 7 years ago, a particular safeguard I'd built into the company's core systems. Something Derek never understood, because he'd never actually done the technical work. He saw code as magic, never bothered learning how it actually functioned. Every major client didn't just have software. They had systems I'd personally architected, with dependencies and integrations that only I fully understood. Derek could hire 100 programmers, but they'd be working with documentation I'd written, systems I'd designed, architecture I'd created. And I'd been very careful, 7 years ago, to ensure I had leverage if I ever needed it. I pulled out my laptop, connected to coffee shop Wi-Fi, and started looking through old code repositories. Not the company repositories, my personal ones, the backups I'd kept of every major project, stored on servers Derek didn't know existed. I had 72 hours to prove my innocence, save my career, and expose Derek's fraud. I had $0 to do it with, but I had one thing Derek had forgotten about. I knew where everybody was buried, because I'd been burying them for 11 years. I called Tyler at 6 in the morning. He didn't answer. I called again, and again. Finally, on the 5th call, he picked up. Jody, I can't help you. I'm sorry. Tyler, please. Just listen for 2 minutes. Silence. Then, 2 minutes. I explained what I needed. Access to the company servers, just to download proof that Derek's fabricated documents were recently created. Show the timestamps, the metadata, the evidence of manipulation. That's illegal, Tyler said. You don't work there anymore. That's hacking. I built those systems. I left backdoor access for maintenance purposes. I'm just accessing systems I created. Jody, that's not how the law works. I'm facing prison for crimes I didn't commit. Please. Long pause. Then, I'll help you. But if this goes wrong, we're both in trouble. We met at Tyler's apartment that night. He'd set up a secure connection, multiple proxies, everything we needed to access the company servers remotely. I logged in using credentials I'd embedded in the system architecture years ago. Maintenance accounts Derek didn't know existed. We were in. Find the documents he submitted to court, I told Tyler. Pull the metadata, the creation dates, everything. Tyler's fingers flew across the keyboard. Found them. Jody, look at this. These bank statements were created 6 weeks ago. The emails were backdated, but the files themselves are brand new. The contracts have digital signatures, but the signature certificates are only a month old. Download everything. We need proof. We spent 3 hours pulling evidence. Every fabricated document, every manipulated record, every piece of fraud Derek had created. The timestamps told the truth his documents lied about. "We've got enough to prove he's lying," Tyler said. "This is going to save you." I felt hope for the first time in weeks. We logged out, cleared our tracks, and celebrated with cheap beer from Tyler's refrigerator. 24 hours later, federal agents knocked on Tyler's door. Derek had reported a cyber attack on the company. Corporate espionage. Unauthorized access to protected computer systems. Tyler was arrested, handcuffed in his own apartment while his neighbors watched. I got the call from Tyler's girlfriend, Sarah. She was crying. "They're saying he hacked into your old company. They're saying it's a federal crime. Jody, what did you ask him to do?" The evidence we'd downloaded was now fruit of the poison tree, legally inadmissible. We'd broken the law accessing those servers, even though I'd built them. Patricia called an hour later. "Jody, stop. Whatever you're doing, stop. Derek's using this to prove you're so desperate you're committing crimes. You're making everything worse." Tyler's mother called me, screaming. Her son was facing federal charges because of me. His career was ruined. His life was destroyed. And it was all my fault. She was right. I'd dragged an innocent person into my disaster. And now he was paying the price. Meanwhile, Derek was giving interviews to business magazines. The company had just secured a $50 million investment. He was being profiled as a visionary entrepreneur, the rare CEO who combined technical genius with business acumen. One article quoted Gerald from the board. "Derek built this company from nothing. His innovative approach to analytics is revolutionary. We're excited about the future now that distractions have been removed." Distractions. That's what I'd become. I had 20 hours left before Derek's deadline. Take the deal or face prosecution. I was living in my car in a Walmart parking lot. Tyler was in federal custody because he'd tried to help me. Marcus had stopped working on data recovery because I couldn't pay him. Patricia had basically told me to give up. Amy wouldn't talk to me. My family had stopped calling after they'd seen the news stories about embezzlement investigations. I had nothing. No money, no evidence that was admissible, no allies, no options. I sat in my car, looking at an old photograph I kept in my wallet. The first day of the company, 11 years ago, me and Derek with our first client, Sarah Martinez, who was head of product at Meditech Solutions. We'd landed a contract to build their analytics infrastructure. I remembered that day so clearly. Sarah had taken a chance on 2 kids who'd barely graduated college. Sarah was now CEO of Meditech. The company had grown from a small medical device startup to a $700 million corporation. I'd built their entire analytics system personally, upgraded it 3 times, spent countless hours on the phone helping them optimize their data pipelines. Every Christmas, I'd sent Sarah a personal card. Every year, on the anniversary of our first contract, I'd call to check in. Every time they'd expanded into new markets, I'd been there to help them scale their systems. Derek had attended the contract signings and anniversary dinners. He'd never maintained the relationships. He'd never understood that business was built on trust and personal connection, not just signatures on paper. I had 12 hours left. I picked up my phone and called Sarah. She answered on the 3rd ring. "Jody? I was just thinking about you." "Sarah, I need help." "Of course. What's going on? Can we meet in person?" "It's complicated. I'm at the office. Come by anytime." I drove to Meditech's headquarters, a gleaming building in the tech corridor. Sarah met me in a private conference room. She looked concerned the moment she saw me. "Jody, are you okay? You look exhausted." I told her everything. The buyout, the lawsuit, the fabricated evidence, the deadline. I laid it all out, every detail, holding nothing back. Sarah listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "I need a job," I said. "Any job. I need to show the court I'm employable. And maybe, if you're willing, testimony about our work history? Proof that I actually built the systems Derek is taking credit for?" Sarah's expression shifted. She looked uncomfortable. "Jody, I wish you'd called me earlier." My stomach dropped. "Derek came to see me yesterday," Sarah said. He offered Meditech an exclusive partnership, 50% discount on all analytics services, priority support, custom development, everything we'd need to scale, but there was a condition. I knew what was coming. He asked us to sign an affidavit saying you were difficult to work with, that our relationship was primarily with him, not you, that the technical work was his, and you were mainly administrative support. Did you sign it? I whispered. Our board meets in 6 hours to vote on it. I'm the CEO, but I don't have unilateral authority on a contract this size. It's a $12 million value to our company over 3 years. We'd be insane to turn it down from a business perspective. Sarah, I built your entire infrastructure. You know that. I do know that, she said, and she sounded genuinely sorry. But Jody, I have a fiduciary responsibility to my shareholders. I can't sacrifice my company's financial interests for personal friendship. I'm sorry, but business is business. She stood up. If the board votes yes, I have to sign the affidavit. I hope you understand. I walked out of that building in a daze. My oldest professional relationship gone. Sold for a discount on services I'd created. Over the next 4 hours, Derek made similar offers to 6 other major clients. Massive discounts, exclusive access, priority support, all contingent on signing affidavits against me. Every single company signed. Patricia called. Jody, I just received 7 affidavits from your former clients. They all say you were problematic, unreliable, that Derek was the primary relationship. Combined with his fraud evidence, I can't defend you anymore. You need to take the deal. Now. I had 6 hours left. Marcus called with the final blow. I recovered 1 file from your backup, but Jody, you're not going to like it. The file was a contract from year 2 of the company. I opened it and felt my world collapse completely. It was an intellectual property agreement, officially registering all company innovations, algorithms, and technologies under Derek's name as founder and chief technology officer. At the bottom was my signature, dated 11 years ago. I didn't remember signing it. But there it was. Legal proof that Derek owned everything I'd created. I'd trusted him completely back then, signed whatever he'd put in front of me. Patricia sent me the admission papers. Sign these, email them back within 5 hours, or Derek's filing criminal charges. I'm sorry, Jody. I really am. I sat in my car with a pen in my hand, looking at the document that would destroy my career, my reputation, everything I'd worked for. Admit to embezzlement I didn't commit. Accept being barred from my industry forever. Lose everything. But stay out of prison. My hand was shaking as I positioned the pen over the signature line. Then I remembered. 7 years ago, Derek had made a dismissive comment in a meeting. A client had asked a technical question, and Derek had fumbled the answer, then turned to me and said, Jody, handle the grunt work, would you? That day, I'd made a decision. Every major client didn't just have a relationship with our company. They had a dependency on systems only I knew how to maintain. Every algorithm I'd built had complexities only I understood. Every custom solution had integration points that required my specific expertise. Not to destroy them, but to ensure they needed me. And I'd built something else. Something Derek knew nothing about. For 7 years, while he'd been glad-handing investors and taking credit for my work, I'd been creating a backup plan. I opened my laptop and typed one command into 7 different systems. Within seconds, every major client's analytics platform went dark, and I was the only person in the world who could bring them back. I wrote one email with the subject line, "We need to talk." I sent it to all 7 CEOs, including Sarah. Then my phone rang. It was Gerald from the board. He was screaming, "What the hell did you do?" Gerald's voice was so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "Every client is calling. Their systems are down. Meditech's entire analytics infrastructure is offline. Do you understand what you've done?" "I built those systems," I said, my voice calm. "I maintained them for 11 years. Only I know how they work. I'm simply discontinuing my personal support. This is corporate terrorism. You'll go to prison for this." "No, Gerald." Derek forced me out illegally. "These are systems I designed, built, and maintained on my own time, using my own intellectual property. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just not supporting them anymore. I hung up. Within 30 minutes, all 7 major clients were calling the company in panic mode. Meditech's entire patient analytics system was down. They tracked medical device performance in real time for 70,000 patients. Without the system, they couldn't monitor critical health data. People's lives were potentially at risk. TechCore's quality control systems were offline. Their manufacturing plants had stopped production. Every hour of downtime cost them $200,000. The financial services firms couldn't access their fraud detection algorithms. Millions of dollars in transactions were being held up, unable to be processed or verified. Each client was hemorrhaging money, $100,000 to $2 million per hour, depending on the company. Total losses mounting, approximately $8 million per hour. My phone rang again. Derek this time. "You're insane," he sputhed. "You just committed corporate sabotage. I'm calling the FBI right now." "Call them," I said. "Explain to them how you forced out the person who built and maintained all your critical systems. Explain how you fabricated fraud evidence against her. I'm sure they'll be very interested." "You're holding companies hostage." "No. You destroyed my career, froze my assets, and framed me for crimes I didn't commit. I'm simply exercising my right to not provide technical support for systems I built. If you'd like my help restoring them, we can discuss terms." "Terms? What terms?" "Restore my reputation. Drop all charges. Pay me fair market value for my shares. $5 million. Derek laughed, harsh and bitter. "You're delusional. I'll never pay you a dime. Enjoy federal prison." He hung up. 1 hour later, Derek held an emergency press conference. I watched it on my phone, sitting in my car, a sick feeling in my stomach. Derek stood before reporters looking exhausted and concerned. Earlier today, a disgruntled former employee launched a cyber attack against our company and our clients. This individual, Jody Sullivan, was terminated 3 weeks ago for financial misconduct. Rather than accept responsibility, she has chosen to hold several companies hostage, disrupting critical services that affect thousands of people. He leaked my name. My face appeared on the screen, a photo from the company website. Within an hour, national news picked up the story. Tech executive holds companies hostage. My face on every news channel. My name attached to the words cyber terrorism, extortion, sabotage. The FBI actually contacted me. An agent named Rogers called my phone. "Miss Sullivan, we need to discuss your access to computer systems owned by your former employer and their clients. We're investigating potential violations of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act." The Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Federal crime. Potential prison sentence, 10 to 15 years. Derek had calculated perfectly. I'd panic and restore the systems. If I did, I'd lose all leverage. If I didn't, I'd face federal prison for much longer than embezzlement charges. Either way, he won. But then the clients started calling me directly. Sarah from Meditech, her voice desperate. "Jody, please. We have patients. People depend on their medical devices being monitored. Heart patients, diabetics, people with serious conditions. Please restore the system." "Talk to Derek," I said. "He owns the company now. He can't fix this. His team has been working all day. Nothing's working. They don't understand your architecture." "That's not my problem, Sarah. You signed an affidavit saying I was difficult and unreliable. You said Derek was the technical genius." "I was wrong. We were all wrong. Please, Jody. People could die." 6 other clients called with similar pleas. They'd realized the truth Derek had hidden for 11 years. He was never the technical genius. It was always me. He'd just been very good at taking credit. But they were all calling me, begging me to fix the systems, while simultaneously claiming I was a criminal cyber terrorist. The board held an emergency meeting. Gerald called me again. "Name your price. Whatever you want. Please." "It's too late for that," I said. Derek called the FBI on me. "If I touch those systems now, I'm incriminating myself. I can't help you." Derek announced he'd found a solution. He'd hired a team of elite software engineers. They'd rebuild everything from scratch. Timeline, 72 hours. Problem solved. He held another press conference. "We don't negotiate with criminals. Our team is working around the clock to restore services. We will not be extorted. But privately, he did something worse. He filed for an emergency restraining order, claiming I'd installed malicious code that was actively destroying client data. He convinced a judge that I was an ongoing threat. The judge issued an order freezing all my remaining assets, including the $7,000 buyout payment, and the judge issued a court order requiring me to restore the systems immediately or be held in contempt of court. I had 12 hours to comply. If I didn't, I'd be arrested and detained indefinitely until I agreed to restore the systems. Patricia called, frantic. "Jody, you have to comply. Contempt of court means jail until you purge the contempt. They can hold you indefinitely. If I restore the systems, I lose all leverage. Derek wins. I go to prison for his fabricated embezzlement charges, or the hacking charges. If you don't restore them, you go to jail anyway, and clients will sue you for damages. We're talking hundreds of millions in potential liability." I sat in my car in the Walmart parking lot watching the news coverage. A cybersecurity expert being interviewed. This type of extortion is becoming more common. Disgruntled employees with technical access holding companies hostage. It's digital terrorism, plain and simple. My mother called, crying. "Jody, how could you? How could you do this?" Even my own family believed Derek's lies. I had 2 hours before the contempt hearing. Patricia sent me a text. "I'm resigning as your attorney. I can't be associated with this case. I'm sorry. No lawyer, no money, no allies. Facing arrest in 2 hours." My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Miss Sullivan? This is Amanda Chen from the Securities and Exchange Commission. We need to talk about Derek Thompson's company. We've been investigating for 8 months. I pulled over to the side of the road. "What?" "The SEC has been investigating Mr. Thompson for securities fraud. We believe he's been lying to investors about who developed the company's technology. We have evidence of falsified documents and misrepresentation of intellectual property ownership. But we need your testimony and your technical documentation to build our case." "I'm about to be arrested for contempt of court," I said. "We know. We've been monitoring the situation. If you cooperate with our investigation, we can potentially offer you protection from some of the charges you're facing, but we need to move quickly." I had 90 minutes before the contempt hearing. "There's something you should know," Amanda said. "Derek Thompson just announced a $50 million acquisition offer from tech giant corporation. If that deal closes, he walks away with millions, and our investigation becomes much more complicated. The deal is set to close in 48 hours. Derek's endgame. Take the money and run. Leave me to face all the legal consequences while he sailed off into the sunset." "I'll testify," I said. "I'll give you everything I have. But I need protection now. Come to our office. We're downtown. We can provide security during the contempt hearing." I was about to hang up when Amanda said one more thing. "Miss Sullivan, there's something else. Derek filed for the acquisition using financial projections that claimed the company owns all the core technology and has permanent access to all client relationships. If what you're telling us is true, those projections are fraudulent. The acquiring company is paying $50 million for assets Derek doesn't actually own." The pieces clicked into place in my mind. "Amanda, I need to make some calls. Can you delay the contempt hearing by 2 hours?" "I can try." "What are you planning?" Something Derek should have thought about before he forced me out for $7,000. I hung up and started making calls. All 7 clients. One conversation, repeated 7 times. "This is Jody Sullivan. I'll restore your systems immediately, free of charge. But first, let me tell you what Derek has been hiding from you." Sarah answered her phone on the first ring. "Jody, thank God. Are you restoring the systems?" "In a minute. First, answer a question. When you signed your original contract with our company, what exactly did you think you were licensing?" "Your analytics platform. The proprietary algorithms Derek developed." "Did Derek tell you he personally developed them?" "Yes. He said he was the chief technology officer and inventor of the core systems." "Sarah, I built every single algorithm you use. Every custom integration, every data pipeline, every analytical model. I wrote every line of code. Derek has never written production code in his life. Silence. I retained personal rights to certain core algorithms, I continued. They were developed on my own time, using my personal resources, before the company was formally incorporated. Derek sold them to you as company assets, but legally, you were licensing my intellectual property without my permission. What are you saying? When Derek forced me out, those licenses technically terminated. The systems going dark wasn't sabotage. It was automatic license expiration. Derek committed fraud by selling my work as company assets without disclosure. Jody, are you telling me our entire analytics infrastructure belongs to you personally? The core algorithms, yes. The custom implementations, yes. I can license them to you directly, or Derek can continue pretending he owns something he doesn't, and you can face lawsuits for using unlicensed intellectual property. I heard Sarah breathing heavily. What do you want? I want you to understand who actually built the technology your company depends on, and I want you to understand that Derek has been defrauding you for 11 years. I made the same call to all 7 clients. TechCore, Financial Solutions Group, Data Metrics, Strategic Analytics Partners. Every major client, the same revelation, repeated. Within 30 minutes, chaos erupted. Meditech's legal team called Derek's company demanding proof of IP ownership. TechCore did the same. One by one, the clients realized they'd been paying for technology Derek didn't own. Sarah called me back. Our lawyers reviewed our contract. You're right. The licensing agreements reference proprietary company technology, but there's no documentation proving Derek personally developed it or that the company has clear title to it. If you own the underlying algorithms, we've been using unlicensed software for years. What are you going to do? I asked. Our board is meeting in an hour. But Jody, I can tell you right now what's going to happen. We're terminating our contract with Derek's company, and we'd like to hire you directly as an independent consultant. I'll need that in writing, I said, and I'll need you to testify about Derek's misrepresentation. You'll have both. One by one, all 7 clients made the same decision. Terminate contracts with Derek. Hire me directly. Agree to testify about his fraud. The acquisition deal collapsed immediately. Tech giant corporation's due diligence team discovered the IP fraud during their final review. They withdrew the $50 million offer within hours. The board held an emergency meeting. Gerald called me, his voice shaking. Jody, we made a terrible mistake. Derek lied to us. We had no idea. You let him buy me out for $7,000 when my share was worth $5 million. You sat there and watched him do it. We thought he was telling the truth. He had documents, certifications, everything looked legitimate. You didn't bother to verify any of it because it was easier to believe him than to think critically. Silence. Then, you're right. We failed you. The board just voted unanimously to remove Derek as CEO effective immediately. We're asking you to return to the company. I'm not interested in working for you, I said, but I will accept fair market value for my shares. $5 million. Derek won't have that kind of money after this. That's his problem. The SEC filed formal charges against Derek within 24 hours. Securities fraud, investor fraud, falsifying documents to the SEC. The FBI investigation shifted focus from me to Derek. Tyler was released. All charges dropped. Patricia called, apologetic. Jody, I'm sorry I doubted you. I'd like to represent you again pro bono. I owe you that much. The contempt hearing became a formality. I appeared in court with Patricia, with 7 major corporations testifying on my behalf, with the SEC providing documentation of Derek's fraud. The judge dismissed Derek's restraining order and dropped all charges against me. Derek's embezzlement evidence was revealed as fabricated. The bank statements were fake, the emails were forged, the contracts were fraudulent. Everything he'd built to destroy me collapsed under scrutiny. Within a week, Derek was arrested. Securities fraud, investor fraud, falsifying documents, defamation, attempted extortion. The charges kept mounting. The company's value plummeted. His board members, the ones who'd sat silently while he bought me out, turned on him completely. Gerald gave an interview to a business magazine. Derek Thompson systematically lied about his technical contributions and misappropriated credit for innovations created by others. We deeply regret not conducting proper due diligence. Derek faced federal charges with a potential sentence of 15 years in prison. I formed my own consulting company. All 7 original clients became my clients. I licensed my algorithms for fair market value. First-year revenue projection, $12 million. I hired Tyler as my chief technology officer. You went to federal custody because of me, I said. I owe you. You stood up for yourself, Tyler said. You showed me what integrity looks like. I'm proud to work with you. Marcus, the IT specialist, became my head of security. Amy, my friend from TechCore who'd warned me about Derek's smear campaign, joined as my business development director. I rebuilt my reputation one client at a time. Word spread through the industry. The woman who'd been framed, who'd fought back, who'd proven the truth despite impossible odds. 6 months later, Derek's lawyer reached out. Derek wanted to settle. He offered $3 million to not testify at his trial. I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop downtown. Neutral ground. Patricia insisted on being present, but I asked to speak with Derek alone first. He walked in looking haggard. The confident, smirking man from the board meeting was gone. In his place was someone defeated, hollowed out. We sat across from each other in silence for a moment. You destroyed me, Derek said finally. You took everything. No, I said quietly. You destroyed yourself. I just stopped letting you steal from me. I built that company. I raised the money. I made us successful. You raised money by lying about who did the work. You made us successful by taking credit for innovations I created. For 11 years, I did the actual work while you gave speeches and collected accolades. You thought forcing me out for $7,000 was clever. I had to. You were a threat. You knew too much. I knew the truth. That's different. Derek looked down at his coffee cup. What happens now? You face the consequences of your choices. You lied to investors, defrauded clients, fabricated evidence against me. Those are crimes. You're going to prison. Was it worth it? He asked bitterly. Destroying me? Was it worth all this? I didn't destroy you, Derek. You destroyed yourself the moment you decided to steal credit for my work. The moment you chose ego over partnership. The moment you thought you could erase my contributions and no one would notice. I stood up to leave. For what it's worth, Derek said. I'm sorry. I should have given you credit. I should have valued you. Yes, I said. You should have. Derek was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Securities fraud, investor fraud, obstruction of justice. The judge called his actions a calculated scheme to defraud investors and destroy an innocent person's career. I send him a holiday card every year. It just says, thank you. Because forcing me out for $7,000 was the most expensive mistake of his life and the best thing that ever happened to mine. I'm standing in my office right now, looking out at the city skyline. Jody Sullivan, consulting on the glass door behind me. A team of 18 employees who respect my work and value my leadership. Clients across 15 states who trust me with their most critical systems. Last quarter, my company generated $4 million in revenue. I'm on track to clear $20 million this year. But the money isn't what matters most. What matters is that I rebuilt my reputation through honesty, competence, and integrity. Every client knows exactly what they're getting when they work with me. Every employee knows their contributions will be recognized and valued. Every partner knows I'll fight for what's right, not what's easy. Sarah from Meditech called last week. You saved our company, she said. Not just by restoring the systems, but by showing us what real leadership looks like. I'm sorry I doubted you. You chose business over friendship, I said. I understand why. No, Sarah said firmly. I chose short-term profit over long-term integrity. That was wrong. I've learned from it. She's not wrong. We all learned something from this experience. I learned that loyalty means nothing if you don't also demand respect. I learned that documentation isn't paranoia, it's protection. I learned that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the catalyst for the best thing in your life. Most importantly, I learned my worth. For 11 years, I stayed silent while Derek took credit for my work. I told myself that hard work would be recognized eventually, that loyalty would be rewarded, that partnership meant something. I was wrong. Sometimes you have to fight for recognition. Sometimes you have to demand the respect you've earned. Sometimes you have to walk away from people who diminish you, even when walking away feels impossible. Derek thought he won when I said deal to his $7,000 buyout. He thought I was desperate, defeated, broken. He thought he'd successfully erased me from the story of the company we built together. What he didn't know was that I'd been preparing for that moment for 7 years. Not because I wanted to fight him, but because I'd learned to protect myself. I'd built scaffolding beneath my own feet, created leverage he didn't know existed, documented everything so that truth would eventually surface. When he forced me out, his house of cards collapsed. My foundation held strong, and I finally built something that was truly mine. Derek is serving his sentence at a federal correctional facility in Pennsylvania. I don't hate him. I don't even think about him most days. He made his choices, and he's living with the consequences. I made mine, too. I chose to fight when fighting seemed impossible. I chose truth when lies were easier. I chose to believe in my own value when everyone else dismissed me. That's the lesson I carry forward every single day. Sometimes the worst betrayal becomes your greatest liberation. Sometimes losing everything means you're finally free to build what you actually deserve. Sometimes the person who tries to destroy you ends up giving you the greatest gift, the motivation to prove your worth, to yourself and to the world. Derek forced me out for $7,000. That decision cost him his company, his reputation, his freedom, and 8 years of his life. That same decision gave me clarity, courage, and a company built on integrity. I win every single day he sits in that prison cell, not because I want him to suffer, but because I'm finally living the life I should have demanded 11 years ago. Thank you, Derek, for showing me exactly who I didn't want to be, for teaching me that sometimes you have to lose everything to gain what actually matters, for giving me the push I needed to stop accepting less than I deserved. Forcing me out for $7,000 was the most expensive mistake of your life, and the best thing that ever happened to mine. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where someone tried to take credit for your work? How did you handle it? Did you fight back, or did you walk away? What would you do if you were in my position? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who's facing a similar situation right now. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories and realize they're not alone in their struggles. And if you want to hear more stories about people who fought back against injustice and won, subscribe to this channel. I share new stories every week about real people facing real challenges and finding the courage to stand up for themselves. Finally, share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe you know someone who's being undervalued at work, or someone who's facing a betrayal, or someone who needs a reminder that fighting back is possible even when it seems hopeless. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I know it was a long journey, but I wanted to share every detail so you could understand exactly how I went from rock bottom to building something I'm truly proud of. Remember, your worth isn't determined by how others treat you. It's determined by how you treat yourself. Demand the respect you deserve. Document everything. Trust yourself. And never, ever let someone make you believe you're less valuable than you are. Take care of yourselves. Stand up for yourselves. And never stop fighting for what's right. Until next time.